what you've got, 6'4".
What's up, everybody? This is Emmett Watkins Jr., also known as EJ Sponge61, on various places on the internet, and I am back with a last-minute talk about E3 2018, and not speculation, not what I think is going to happen, but mostly what I want to happen. This is going to be purely hype. This is going to be purely my hopes and dreams of what I hope to see at the conference. And this video is going to be focusing on third party. I will have a video focusing on the big three console manufacturers as well. But I want to just focus on just the games here. And I just want to get this out. Try to do this as close to the actual convention as possible. Mainly because, you know, things leak and drop all the time leading up to it. And I figured maybe with 2 days left to go before like the EA conference and some other stuff, maybe there's a chance that I can just be neutral and everything that's going to drop has dropped and there's no crazy announcements. So maybe I'll have egg on my face posting this today, but we'll find out. So we're going to go through all the big press conferences for the third parties and then a few miscellaneous things at the end. But we're going to start with the one that is going to start this weekend. One of the ones starting this weekend, EA. Now I know EA has such a crazy negative perception, but you know, they're still a publisher that has a fair amount of games that I'm interested in. So let's go ahead and run down the few that I hope to see or hope exist or just want to see stuff from. So number one, first and foremost, Titanfall 3. Now, Respawn Entertainment, the developer behind Titanfall 3, they did announce in an earnings call a while back that they were working on a sequel in the Titanfall franchise, but even further back than that, they've also announced that they were working on a Star Wars game, and it was going to be directed by Stig Asmussen, who was the game director for God of War 3. Now, I'm kind of torn on the existence of Titanfall 3, because I'm sure they're working on it, but I don't know if this year is the year for it. It has been 2 years since the last Titanfall, so much like the gap between Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2, it seems about time. But considering that EA seems to want at least one Star Wars game out every single year, I'm not exactly sure if that's going to happen. Well, maybe not a Star Wars game every single year, but EA definitely wants to keep up the momentum with Star Wars. Now with the release of Battlefront 2 last year, and then 2 years before that, Battlefront 1, they've kept that momentum up. Now I don't know if they want another Star Wars game in this middle gap year, but if they do, then I think it's all signs point to the Respawn game being that Star Wars game. So I'm going to talk as if I'll come back to the Star Wars possibility, but I want to talk first about Titanfall and its possibility. I really hope Titanfall 3 is a thing. If it is a thing, I want them to double down on the campaign. Now, I love the campaign. A lot of people love Titanfall for the campaign, but, you know, at the end of the day, it was very, very short. I'm sure that took a lot of people, you know, who wanted to pick up the game at launch or something, hearing how short that campaign is, as great as it was, probably turned some folks off. Even though the game's been on sale for like $6 a million times by now, but that's besides the point. I want them to double down on the campaign. Now, I don't think I want, you know, 4-player co-op. I don't think I want, oh man, my phone's going off. I don't think I want 4-player co-op in the campaign. I feel like that would water down what made that campaign special quite a bit. I don't think I want like an open world or anything crazy like that. Maybe just add some more new and inventive ideas, because that's what that campaign was so great for. Add some new crazy ideas and gimmicks. And then I'd say make it longer, but I really, the pace of the campaign was so great, I don't want it to be stretched out and then break the pace in the process. So just some type of focus on the campaign, because I feel like that will get people in a lot easier, because the multiplayer, for as fun as it is and for accessible as I feel it is, when you look at gameplay, it does look daunting. So double down on the campaign. I would like some type of, speaking of multiplayer now, I would like some type of social space similar to the headquarters in Call of Duty World War II, or even the social spaces they have in Destiny. I think it would serve a game like Titanfall 3 well, because their business model, at least with Titanfall 2, was not based on any gameplay improvements. It was pretty much all cosmetic. And what better way to show off your cosmetics to your friends if you have a social space to do that, so where you're not worried about combat and you're just hanging around with each other. And I think it would also be a good idea to have this social space because you guys could practice movement as a group. They do have that gauntlet level in Titanfall 2, and that is where you're supposed to, try out movement and get better at movement. But that gauntlet is in single player, and there's no way to bring your friends in and practice alongside them. So I think it would serve the game well to have something like that. And also, as far as movement is concerned, the grappling hook was added in Titanfall 2 along with some other abilities in the multiplayer. I really do think that the grappling hook should somehow be just added permanently to the tool set of Titanfall. I've been too used to using it, and everyone else has proven that as well. That is by far the most popular equipment item in the game. I think they should just find a way to just include it in the game for everyone all the time. Maybe put it as one of the click and stick actions instead of punching. Maybe when you're in the middle of the air, instead of punching, you can, zip line to a place that you're aiming at. Something I'm sure they could figure it out, but I really do feel like grappling hook has become such a big part of Titanfall that it should just be added for good, especially with the reliance on traversal in those games. But if Titanfall 3 does not exist, then the Star Wars game is what we're going to see from Respawn. Now, the Star Wars game, with Stig Asmussen being over there helping on it, I do feel like this is going to be more of a Force Unleashed type of a game. It should definitely have a great campaign, and I'm sure it'll have, some great set-piece moments and things, because, Respawn are still the guys who not only made Titanfall 2, but they also worked on Call of Duty 4 before it, and that game is talked to high heaven about their set-pieces. So I do feel like this new game is going to be closer to a Force Unleashed. I think it's going to be a character action game with Stig Asmussen on it. Like I said, the God of War comparisons are too close, so I think that's what it's going to be. But the thing is, while I think the campaign's going to be good, I wonder how they're going to flesh this game out more, because I don't think EA is going to let them release a game that's just a good campaign and that's it. If you look at the Dead Space games, Dead Space 1 had a great campaign. Dead Space 2 had multiplayer because you needed it. Dead Space 3 had co-op and multiplayer by the end of it. Or I think Dead Space 3 just had co-op. But anyway, there was a way to get longevity out of the game. So I think that's going to be in this new Star Wars game. I don't quite know how they're going to do it. My bet is on a third-person multiplayer mode of some sort. But there's no way for me to know that for sure. So we'll just find out when we get there to the press conference. But fingers crossed it's Titanfall and not Star Wars. Star Wars is a good franchise, but man, I just love Titanfall so much more. And I think that will be a better use of their time, at least now. Maybe come back to Star Wars later. But anywho, going on to DICE, fresh off of Battlefront 2, now they've already revealed Battlefield 5. Now, I know we're getting gameplay at this EA Play event. So I'm hoping the gameplay has a faster and more, because they talked a lot about being able to prone and how you have a wider range of movement while prone, similar to Rainbow Six Siege. I hope that kind of goes into the gameplay. I hope that everything's a little bit faster, because it is kind of clunky, especially in Battlefield 4, which I recently played again. Movement in that game is very clunky, and they've definitely made it a lot smoother in Battlefield 1, which is why I've been enjoying playing that game a lot recently. But I just want them to keep that up, and also with them moving away from the expansion pack model and moving towards what seems like completely cosmetic microtransactions. I hope that means that things are going to be a lot more customizable in every aspect of the game. So not just character skins or weapon skins, or I've even seen vehicle skins being a thing as well. I'd like for you to be able to exchange gameplay elements of your weapons and just be able to customize your weapons and your characters and their stats and their abilities a little bit more. You could go a little bit closer to Call of Duty in this aspect, but try not to take away that feeling that each soldier is important. If everybody can do everything, then kind of feels like no one can do anything. But yeah, I'd like to see that the gameplay get a little bit more customizable. I'm not exactly sure what I mean by that, but I'm sure that they'll show me something and I'll dig it. I trust DICE with the Battlefield franchise fairly well, So I'm looking forward to see what they have to show. War Stories is returning. I hope War Stories is a little bit deeper. I love the stories that they had in World War One, but once you got down to the gameplay, a lot of those gameplay levels just felt like big maps. It felt like it was just the multiplayer maps, and they just removed all the players and put in a bunch of AI, which is cool. There was one level, I think it was the level with Lawrence of Arabia. That level was very cool, but it also it literally just felt like a multiplayer map, and you were going from zone to zone and just sneaking around and sniping. That is fine. Like, that's an okay way to do single player, but man, it just wasn't very exciting for me. So I hope that the war stories are a little bit more exciting. Maybe lean on the set pieces a little bit more, in gameplay set pieces, because they have great cutscenes and everything in Battlefield 1, but cutscenes don't excite as much as being there and seeing these crazy things happen. And also keep up the diversity in the campaigns. I really dig how we're going to Norway for World War II. I love how you had Harlem Hellfighters in the first game and all this other stuff. I always love the diversity of the more recent Battlefield games, and I hope they continue that up in Battlefield 5. And yeah, other than that, I just want to see gameplay for Battlefield 5. That is my biggest expectation and hope. And there's a lot of things that I want in the game, but I really don't know if they're going to have it or not, so I'm just going to wait and see. Also, Anthem I'm looking forward to somewhat. Not the biggest BioWare fan, not because I dislike them, but because I just haven't played a million of their games. Played Mass Effect 2, thought that was really good, but I haven't gotten around to 3 yet. I have Andromeda because I'm still morbidly curious to just see what that game is, but I am interested to see what they're doing with Anthem. I just hope it's good. That's the main thing I want from this. I hope we are going to get a lot of gameplay. And, I hope the traversal is really cool, because that's the big thing that sold me on that original quote-unquote gameplay demo that they showed last year. The whole Iron Man suits and everything. I'm a sucker for really cool traversal gameplay and movement abilities. I'm a sucker for that, especially when you give me a really big open environment to use those traversal abilities in. I dig that so much, and if you do that with friends, that might just be a perfect combination for me. I rarely play most games with friends. I'm more of a single player guy, but every now and then there is a game that gets me. Like, I think Destiny 1 was that. I played Destiny 1 with friends quite a bit back in the day, and I hope they just show that same loot-based gameplay with some crazy movement abilities. That is going to be my absolute shit. And side note, I kind of hope that they target 60 frames per second. Destiny is kind of notorious for being a 30 frames per second game unless you're on PC. So I think it'd be really cool if Anthem was to just one-up them and target 60 frames. I think that would be really cool for the gameplay first crowd. And also, I think they're going to rely on cosmetic microtransactions. That's what I hope they do, at least. Similar to Fortnite, how there's no way you can purchase a gameplay advantage in that game. Just focus on the cosmetic stuff, and since this is a third-person game, I think that's going to be a better idea for them in general. I hope that EA shows off some type of indie game. Unravel 2 would be cool. I think it's about time for that, but not entirely certain. That would be a good surprise, but I question if they're really ready for an Unravel 2, or even if the first Unravel was even worth it enough. But that character was very, very memorable, I will say. So I'm really looking forward to what kind of indie game they show off. I like that part of the conference from EA. And finally, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 3. I do feel like it's time. It's been about 2 years, I want to say, since the last one. If they do come out with a Garden Warfare 3, because I do enjoy the Garden Warfare games. I played the first one quite a bit. The second one, I haven't put as much time into it, but I still enjoy it just as much. If there's a third one, I really am starving for a single-player campaign. And not just single-player missions that are just multiplayer maps with a objective in the corner. I'm itching for an actual campaign, some type of actual story mode. Even if it's, somewhat shallow. Not something as shallow as the missions in Garden Warfare 2. But if there's a Garden Warfare 3, I want it to have a story mode. That's just the main thing I'm itching for, because that's the type of game where I don't want to play it forever online, but it is definitely the type of game where I'd want to get in the story mode, beat the story, and then get out. So that would give me exactly what I want if that is in Garden Warfare 3. So fingers crossed on that. We'll see about it. So that's it for EA. So we're going to switch over to Square Enix. Now, as you can tell from my channel, Life is Strange is my absolute shit. So I'm really hoping that the Square Enix press conference is going to reveal Life is Strange 2. And if not at this press conference, I hope we see it somewhere in the E3 talk during the week. Life is Strange, such a great franchise. Now, I would love it if Life is Strange 2 would read your save and give you a completely different story based on which of the two choices you made at the very end, because they are both drastically different choices that completely change the world depending on what you do. I'm skipping over spoilers here, but yeah, I really want that, but I really can't see that happening. That's just going to take a lot of work, and it's probably more work than it is worth. So it's probably just going to be a new cast of teenagers somewhere. I'm betting, it'll be one random teen who has another superpower of some sort, and then that's what the game is going to be based off of. I'm sure it'll be a new cast. I'd like to see a cameo from Max Caulfield or even Chloe, if that's possible. I don't know if they just take an ending and call that one ending canon. We'll see what they try and do, but I hope we get a cameo. And I have a feeling that this new character is going to be either they're really going to lean into the queer element of the original Life is Strange, because while Max Caulfield wasn't outright a lesbian, those undertones were definitely there, because she really did care for her friend to that degree, and plus they had that kiss in one of the episodes. It was really hinting towards it. So I think they're gonna lean into that more in this next game with a different cast, or the character's gonna be black. I don't know why I feel this way. I feel like that's a trend everyone wants. They want a little bit more diversity in the game, so I feel like that's what they're going to do. The worry I have with a black character is you probably need some black people to write that character effectively, especially if you're setting it during modern day. So not entirely sure how that's going to work, but we'll see. I completely trust Dontnod, especially with this franchise, and I can't wait to see what they do next. And I also expect that episode 1 will be released within 10 months. So if not this year, it'll definitely be out like early next year, like February at the latest, I'm thinking. So yeah, Life is Strange 2, that's the main thing I want out of the Square Enix conference. Shadow of the Tomb Raider also likely to be there. I'm sure we're going to get gameplay. I'm very excited for that. And I hope they keep up with the not going full open world on Tomb Raider, because I played Shadow of the Tomb Raider somewhat recently, and that game was super huge, but it was still very linear in how you got to all the parts of the world. There were some open areas, but it wasn't a complete open world quite yet. I'm hoping in Shadow of the Tomb Raider they don't go full open world, because I'll admit every single game in the world is open world now. At least it feels like it. And with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I feel like they need to differentiate themselves from the other games coming out, especially around that release month. I feel like these games always release in a really hectic time for video games, so I really don't want this one getting overshadowed again, considering this is the final game in the new Lara Croft trilogy, or the young Lara Croft trilogy. So yeah, please don't go full open world, because I think it's a lot easier to enjoy these games when I don't have the biggest checklist in the world of stuff to check off. So I want them to show some stuff that's going to differentiate it from the wealth of action adventure games out right now. I kind of talked about that already, and I really want them to deliver on something narrative wise, because the Tomb Raider games, I played Tomb Raider 2013, the first in the reboot series, and I played Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Wait, not Shadow of the Tomb Raider. What's the one I just said? Rise of the Tomb Raider. I played both of those. The narrative in those games was not really compelling at all. Those games I play more for the fun of it rather than the story. I'd still like to think I'm somewhat invested, but man, some of the characters are paper thin. I will say there was a lot more good story bits in Rise of the Tomb Raider than I expected, so I hope they capitalize on that type of stuff. And what I'm hearing from press outlets and stuff on Shadow of the Tomb Raider is that they're definitely leaning into a little bit more darker lore and giving her a little bit more of a complicated character. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be in gameplay, and when they show us a little bit more of the game at E3. So very much so looking forward to that. Kingdom Hearts 3, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't care about Kingdom Hearts really. Never played any Kingdom Hearts game, but I keep seeing gameplay for Kingdom Hearts 3, and Toy Story 3 is my favorite movie of all time. So just looking at all this gameplay has got me, it's got me getting really hyped. And then I see, like, you know, the Wreck-It Ralph summons and all this other stuff from all these Disney movies I love. I'm really, really digging it. It has me interested in playing Kingdom Hearts 3, but I know I can't play that game without at least playing a few of the ones before it. So I don't know if I'll actually play Kingdom Hearts 3, but what I want to see from, you know, them showing it off, they got to show a release date. I feel like now's the time for the release date. Has to be this year. My bet is November, because even if that's after Red Dead, this is a big enough game where people are going to play it no matter what. I hope that there's a new world announced, and I know everyone says it's going to be Frozen, because that's a popular one. I kind of hope it's either a Wreck-It Ralph world or a Zootopia world. Wreck-It Ralph I kind of want just because there's already a summon, so I feel like there's assets in the game from that universe. But Zootopia would be so much better for me. Zootopia is one of my favorite animated Disney films of all time. Because it's, you know, it's a movie about racism using animals, so I just dig that 1,000,000%. It's probably right behind Toy Story 3 for me. So I just want them to have that world in there. Now, I don't know how likely that is, mainly because when I think about Zootopia, it really is just our world today with animals. So I don't know how unique, how imaginative that is, especially since they already have 2 Pixar worlds now. So, but they do have a Tangled world, and so, you know, there is, if you want to talk about Disney Animated Studios, you already have 2 of those. You already have one of those in there with Tangled, so maybe they'll do it again with Zootopia. Fingers crossed on that one. I'm hoping for a Zootopia world, and I hope they do more to sell me on it. I don't know how they're going to do it. Just more stuff that's going to make it more accessible for new players. Because I love Toy Story 3 so much. So if they really get me sold on this game, I might just go back and play the other ones. But really, this might be the type of game where I'm just going to say screw it and jump into the third one, because that has all the worlds that I care about. So we'll see on that. Last thing from Square Enix, the Avengers project. They've teased this thing a long time ago, and there's rumors coming out that it's actually going to be a Marvel Alliance reboot of some sorts. Don't know if those rumors hold true. But what I'm hoping most from the Avengers project is that it gives me some crazy traversal powers and some huge environments to use them in. Similar to what I talked about with Anthem in the EA section of the video. I want this game to just deliver a power fantasy. The power fantasy, if I'm Thor, I want some dope flying mechanics. If I'm Black Widow or Captain America, I want some dope, like, swinging, jumping, climbing mechanics. If I'm Iron Man, I want some flying mechanics. If Spider-Man's in this game, I want some dope rope swinging. I want some dope traversal mechanics. That is probably the most interesting thing about playing as these characters to me. So, cause I know this is Crystal Dynamics working on this, and I think Eidos Montreal working on this. I know they can do combat very well. I just want to see, you know, I want to see traversal done in a really cool way. Not necessarily doesn't have to be anything new, but, you know, Saints Row 4, my favorite game of all time, did traversal mechanics amazingly, which is why I love that game so much, or one of the reasons at least. So I want them to do something with that. I hope that they give the characters in the Avengers project a little bit more character. I hope it's not just a popcorn, oh, look at all these characters, they're all having fun. I hope it's not something shallow. I hope they give each of the characters a little bit more depth. Kind of like the Arkham games where they made Batman a 3-dimensional character. I hope they do that with the Avengers in this game. I don't exactly know how they would do that, but I just hope they dig a little bit deep into the mythos and the mindset of all of the Avengers. I'm very excited for that. I don't know how they'll do it once again, but I believe in them. And also, I really don't want this to be multiplayer focused. I just don't want it to be multiplayer focused. I don't want it to be co-op. I don't want there to be some weird MOBA type multiplayer mode where you're using your abilities on cooldowns and everything to take down enemies. That doesn't sound that fun to me. Doesn't sound that original, mainly to me. So I don't think they'll deliver on that, because Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, I don't think they really specialize in that. Sure, the earlier Tomb Raider games had multiplayer, but that really painted me as a tacked on addition. That wasn't like a main pillar to me. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. So on to, now that we're done with Square Enix, we are on to Ubisoft. Ubisoft has a lot of things that I'm interested in. First off, oh boy, my phone is blowing up today. Woo-wee, I thought I muted it. Okay. So first off, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, I'll be completely real. I just started playing Assassin's Creed Origins the night before I'm recording this commentary. That I'm 4 hours in. That game is marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. I dig the main character. I dig the simplified climbing. I dig the combat, even though it is a little bit more skill based. I find it satisfying. And I dig the RPG elements. They are on point. The loot system, being able to break down loot for materials or selling them for money. The simplified economy. The only way you can buy stuff in the game is with actual coins. And then that's the only currency in the whole game. There's no balancing multiple currencies. Sure, they have the Helix credits, but that's more of a microtransaction thing that I don't participate in at all. So I don't even count that as part of the main game. But yeah, man, I'm really digging Assassin's Creed Origins, so that has me very excited for Assassin's Creed Odyssey that recently got leaked and then eventually revealed. So I'm really digging the rumors that I'm hearing about it. I hope they do let me choose my own character. I want to run around as a badass woman. That's what I do in all these RPGs where I can customize my character, or all these games that let me customize my character. Saints Row, 2, 3, and 4. I was a woman in all those games because, I just dig that. So I hope they give me the option to do that. And I've heard talk of dialogue options. That's going to... Now, I'm not exactly sure because I really do enjoy following the linear story, or not linear, but the more focused stories of the Assassin's Creed games, and Origins is no different so far. I question how much dialogue options would change things for me. I think it would be cool as far as adding more player expression into the game, but I'm not exactly sure if that's something I'm dying for. But with the customizable character, I guess you need to give a little bit of that character's agency to the player. So, I'm not entirely mad about it or sad about it or overjoyed either. It's just something I have to wait and see that if I'll like that or not. So we'll see. And also, this might take the most hyped RPG crown from the Fallout series, which is usually what my most hyped RPG is. But yeah, even with the 4 hours I played of Origins, this is like hitting the spot so well. And if they have more of that to show in Odyssey, then I'm all for it. But something that I'm more hyped about than Odyssey is Watch Dogs 3. Now, earlier this year, they had some weird, things were going on with the Ubisoft Club app that they had and relating to Watch Dogs 3, and there were some secrets to uncover on some websites. I forget exactly what it was because that was a good 4 weeks ago or so. Watch Dogs 3, I really do feel like it's time for Watch Dogs 3. Despite the Assassin's Creed Odyssey announcement, I do think Watch Dogs 3 is something that, if not released this year, I feel like we're definitely getting it announced this year. I feel like this would be a good fall game. With Assassin's Creed Origins coming out last year so recently, I do feel like they could push that back to spring next year and then just leave Watch Dogs 3 for this year. I really do feel like they could do that. Or it would even be a good idea to do that. But if they do have Watch Dogs 3, I would like some... I'm actually in the mood for some new characters. I love Marcus Holloway. I got a figure of him back here on my shelf. And I love that entire cast. But I do feel like another game with them will probably burn people out. And also, I like where they left off. I like where I left off in the story with them and the cool twist at the end of the game. I really dig that. So I'd like some new characters, preferably in a city overseas somewhere, because we've been in Chicago in Watch Dogs 1. We've been in San Francisco now in Watch Dogs 2. I think it would be really cool to take the hacking and this whole aesthetic to another area. I'm thinking, somewhere like a London, somewhere like a Japan would be holy shit. Watch Dogs in Japan would be fucking dope. But those two places don't actually include what I was also thinking. I think it'd be cool if they had some type of a political military conflict, because even in Watch Dogs 2, it had a lot of hints about, hacking elections and doing political things involved with tech. I think it'd be cool if they took that and they switched it on its head, and then those influences were a lot more prevalent and a lot more direct. If you set it in like a Egypt or something, where Egypt I'm sure is fairly modern as far as its aesthetic goes. If they did that, I think that would be really cool. Because I've heard some turmoil going on in that area for a while in the news, so I think it'd be cool if they took it over there, and then that hacking kind of influenced some of the militaristic conflict over there. And plus, that could give them an excuse to tighten up the gunplay. Gun combat is not something I used in Watch Dogs 2 that much, but the times I did use it, it definitely showed its, inelegance, to say the least. Gunplay wasn't trash, it didn't feel that great compared to the stealth gameplay and the drone gameplay and all this other stuff. So I'd like for them to, tighten up that gunplay a little bit, but keep those lighthearted characters. Even if the setting is super serious, even if the world is super serious, you have to keep those lighthearted characters to contrast against it all, because I feel like that's what the identity of Watch Dogs is now. It is lighthearted characters. It is a little bit of fun with a little bit of darkness. Even Watch Dogs 2, for as crazy as those characters were, they did have plenty of moments where, they broke down and had serious moments that affected them on a really deep and emotional level. So I think you can strike that balance again in Watch Dogs 3. Just keep those lighthearted characters. And yeah, and I do want cameos from the original cast as well. Just like I said with Life is Strange, if you switch up the cast, have some cameos from Marcus and the other guys. Yes, and that's the main thing I want. Also, if you keep it in the US, if you do keep it in the US, I would want somewhere with a little bit more black people. I mean, not to criticize the other two games. I mean, the first game was in Chicago. I don't even remember. I played Watch Dogs 1 for like 2 hours, so I barely remember the population of that game. But if they set the next one in like in Atlanta, if they're sticking in the US, I think that would be a cool thing, especially with being so close to, because Atlanta is, the blue dot in a red state. So I think it'd be really cool to show that technological advancement and that urbanization right next to the country and the more rural areas. I think that would be a cool dichotomy to play with. But, of course I'm partial to Atlanta. I live down here, so of course I'm going to want that. But yeah, I do want that overseas location a lot more though. So anyway, out of Watch Dogs 3, The Division 2. Now I didn't play too much of The Division. I tried to get into it multiple times, but the main thing that broke me off of it was the gameplay systems seemed way too complicated. Every time I open a menu in that game, I'm just inundated with stats and damage numbers and all these things for all these guns, for all these items, for all these pieces of equipment and armor and all this crap. It's just a lot to take in, especially if you're a new player, like I was repeatedly. So I want them to simplify the UI, simplify some of the gameplay systems. It's really discouraging to just look at that big screen of stats every time that you open things up. And just make the elements of the game and new modes and stuff, make that content easier to access. Cause I remember they released a Horde mode in the Division 1. And it was available, as far as I knew, it was available for free, but I couldn't find where that Horde mode was located in the map, in any of my safe houses. I didn't know where to go to get to that content. And that's a problem I hope they fix in the Division 2, where content like that is easier to find, and it's not something that I have to look up a wiki to find. I want them to have that in, and I hope they do carry over additions from Division 1. They did a lot of updates to Division 1, some quality of life improvements and other things like that. All those learnings should be in the sequel, but also add some new things that I don't quite know what those could be or what I want, but I hope there's just some new stuff in there. But the biggest new thing I want to see, a new major metropolitan area, just a new city to explore, because New York, as beautiful as it was in the first game, if we go back to New York, that's going to be a little bit played out. I like what Greg Miller said on the Kind of Funny Games Cast E3 predictions episode. He said London would be a good location. And I gotta say, the more I thought about it, the more I really dig that. So I would want a London as well. I know this is also going overseas, just like I said to Watch Dogs 3. But a London would be dope. Pretty much anything like that would be dope to me. So yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with the Division 2. I'm the most casual Division fan. I dig those games, but did not play them much at all. So I hope that they can bring me in with something. And I also think Ubisoft is hopefully going to drop. Well, I don't think they're going to drop an indie game, but I want them to drop some type of indie game. I want to see the return of UbiArt. I hope that there's another UbiArt game. I don't want a remaster of Child of Light or something like that. I want a real ass brand new UbiArt game. Even if it's another Rayman, I think by now it's been enough time. People would be psyched for another Rayman, but I hope it's something more along the lines of Valiant Hearts, or I hope it's something along the lines of, like I said, Child of Light would be cool. Another RPG type game with beautiful art style. I just want them to do something really vividly creative. And once again, I hope they use that UB art style, because even though I know it takes a lot of time to use that art style, it's so gorgeous. But if they don't use that art style, I just hope they have something new and inventive in a smaller scale. Anyway, that's it for Ubisoft. On to the next conference, Bethesda Software. Bethesda, they have a lot of things I'm interested in. Now let's get the big elephant in the room out of the way first. Fallout 76. There have been rumors about this thing being more of a Rust clone than a proper Fallout game. There's talk that it's going to lean heavily into the base building aspects that were introduced in Fallout 4. There's talk that, it's going to be kind of online and you'll be working with other players online. When it comes to Fallout, these are aspects that I do not want to see in Fallout at all. I'll be very discouraged if that's what this game ends up being. What I'm hoping happens is, even if they lean into the base building more, I hope this game is entirely optional on base building, meaning I don't even have to interact with that interface once in the game in order to see all the content within it. I hope that's what this game ends up being, because, man, base building is one of the things that turned me off of Fallout 4, because it's just not what I was looking for in that game. And the fact that it was just part of the UI and part of what you had to worry about all the time. It just wasn't, I didn't dig it at all, man. That just annoyed the hell out of me. So I hope that that's entirely optional. And I hope that even if all those elements I said are in it, I hope this is still a proper ass Fallout game, at least in structure. I hope there's a massive world to explore. I hope there's crazy, quirky side quests to explore. I hope there are interesting characters to befriend and to belittle. And I hope there are just really unique aspects of the game, similar to Fallout 3 and similar to a lot of Fallout 4. I kind of quit Fallout 4 earlier than I did on Fallout 3. For some reason, Fallout 4 just wasn't doing it for me as much as I wanted it to. That could be a different video entirely, but I still like to think I'm a fan of the Fallout series. So if Fallout 76 proves to give me some of those quirky characters and those just interesting settings and environments that I really dig from Fallout 3, if they can pull that off again, I'd be all for it for a Fallout 76. Even if they have all this base building and this multiplayer stuff, if I can turn all that off and never interact with it ever, I will be 300% down for that. But I just gotta wait and see on this one. Fallout 76 is just a big question mark. I can't get hyped for it until I know what the hell it is. So we're gonna find that out soon enough, though, so I'm very excited for it. And then we will move on to Rage 2. Rage 2, you know what? I played Rage 1, and the thing that was best about that game was the gunplay. The gun combat in Rage is fantastic. Even now, it ages beautifully. It runs at 60 frames per second. Rage is a really fun game. But everything else around it was pretty shallow. Nothing outright bad, but everything was pretty shallow. Car combat was pretty shallow. Story was pretty shallow. Had a horrible ending, but the story overall was pretty shallow. Character interaction, pretty shallow. So I hope in Rage 2 they can build upon that, make a more vivid world, make a gameplay system that kind of feeds into each other a little bit better. Because in Rage 1, pretty much it was just shoot people, take loot from them, and loot was pretty much just either ammo for the guns you're already carrying, or useless junk that you can go to the vendor to sell for money. And that was the entirety of the gameplay loop. And then all your upgrades were completely just purchase more armor, purchase this scope to put on your pistol, purchase this, purchase that. And that's all it was. There was no like real RPG system in the game. It was just shoot things, earn money, use money. And that was very simple to the point where it was just kind of boring. So I hope Rage 2 solves that problem. It seems like they're definitely expanding the game. It seems like it's a full-on open world, and it seems like vehicles are way more integral to this than in the first game. Because literally the first game just felt like a corridor shooter that let you drive in between the corridors. Rage 2 seems like it's going to be a lot more seamless than that. So I'm very excited to see what that is. I want to see this gameplay from Rage 2. The gameplay trailer we got was so heavily edited that it didn't really give me a sense of what the moment to moment is going to be very much. So I just want to see like how the guns feel, how combat feels. It seems like there were like abilities and powers in Rage 2, which looks fucking nuts, but I'm excited to see what that could be. It seemed it had a little bit of vibes from Doom 2016 in it as well, which excites me, but these are things that I'm only going to know once I see some extended gameplay footage. So I hope Rage 2 delivers on all that, and I hope the gameplay systems are deeper. Give me some RPG elements or something. Give me something more than just shoot, get money, use money. Because that's too simplistic, and I don't think I could do that for the entire length of an open world game. So yeah, Rage 2 looking forward to. The other one I'm really, really, really excited for, Doom 2. Now, I heard rumors for Doom 2 earlier this year. I heard that it could be announced this year. If it is announced this year, don't think we're getting a release for 2018. I think this is definitely a 2019 game. But I think Doom 2 is the time to talk about it, because Doom was such a surprise to everyone last year, and I just really do feel like there's so much goodwill, and if Doom 2 got announced, that would be like on the top of so many people's lists so quickly. Now, I do think this would have been the right time to show it and announce a release date and everything, but since id Software, the developers of Doom 2016 and the entire Doom franchise, they are collaborating with Avalanche Studios, the developers of Just Cause and the Mad Max game. They're collaborating with them on Rage 2, so I don't know how much work has been done on Doom 2 because of that collaboration. Now, I don't know if Rage 2 could be just mostly Avalanche Studios with id Software just being consultants or something like that, being very hands-off. If that's the case, then shoot, Doom 2 could be damn near finished. But I just don't know how deep that relationship is. So, if that relationship is really deep, I think the most we'll see of Doom 2 is like a teaser within like some random text on screen. Similar to what they did with Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, where they just had the subtitle in like some Easter egg slide of the press conference. I think they could do that with Doom 2 this year. I think it's time for that, if they don't have gameplay to show. But if they have gameplay to show, they're showing it, and they're announcing it for spring 2019. This feels like a good spring 2019 game. I really hope Doom 2 exists. And if they do show it, what new content do I want in it? I feel like the traversal in Doom is so great. It's so simplified. That's the thing. It's very simple. It's very just, it is what it was in the original games. It's just fast paced. But I think it would be kind of cool to see either a new traversal mechanic. Now, I don't know what that means. Is that a double jump? I don't know. I think you could double jump in that game anyway. Yeah, you could double jump. They had the jet boots. I don't know if it's like a grappling hook thing. I don't know what exactly I want as far as a new traversal mechanic could be. But I think that would serve Doom very well, because so much of that game is dancing around their bullets. If they made that a little bit more fun to do, even though it's really fun now, if they made that more fun and more complex, I think that would be cool. Or a new mechanic related to the brutal melee kills. Once again, don't know what that mechanic could be. Maybe it could be something as cool as taking out a Cacodemon eye, and then once you've killed the Cacodemon, you have the eye, and then you could throw it at another enemy. And then it could explode or something. Something like that could be neat. Don't exactly know what they could do for brutal melees beyond what they've already done, which is a great incentivizer of, you know, once you're low on health or low on ammo, you do those abilities and get more health and ammo. Either way, I think they have to add some type of new gameplay element into Doom 2. Don't know what it could be, but I'm looking forward to them surprising me in some way. So, Rage 2, or Doom 2, very, very, very excited for. And I hope Starfield is real. Starfield is this rumored game that's being worked on by Bethesda Softworks, the same developers behind Skyrim and Fallout and all those other previous games. I hope this is real. I hope it's basically a Skyrim / Fallout-like game, but in space. I hope there's planet hopping. I hope that, because how Skyrim has this insanely massive world and Fallout has this insanely massive world, what if they took those massive worlds and split them into 5 planets, and then you just traveled from planet to planet, and then you get on those planets and it was super populated like their open worlds tend to be. I think that would be the dopest thing in the world. Don't know how likely that is, but that's what I imagine could be the gameplay hook of Starfield, or at least the thing to differentiate it from the previous games. I hope it's a super big RPG. I hope it's weird. I hope it has all the really deep RPG elements that the Fallout series is known for and the Skyrim series is known for, or Elder Scrolls series is known for. I just hope Starfield is a real thing. That's the main thing I'm hoping for. And yeah, I hope everything's good. I hope Starfield exists and I hope it's good, because after Fallout 4 wasn't a bad game. I really did enjoy my time with it, but the hype got me with Fallout 4, man. I bought the season pass, I bought the collector's edition, I bought everything right off the bat, and I was a little bit burned on it because I just burned out on that game way earlier than I expected to. With their next game, I hope that is not the case. With Fallout 76, I hope that's not the case, but definitely with Starfield. But I do have hopes on Starfield, because with the new IP comes just more interest and a longer held interest. So we'll see what happens with that, but fingers crossed. And then the last thing, I think Bethesda needs another multiplayer game. Now, I was just going to say a multiplayer game in general, but Quake Legends or Quake Champions does exist, but that's PC only. How many people are really playing that? It's an old school shooter. The market on that is going to be pretty slim. I think Bethesda is looking to have something that's persistent. Because if you see with Skyrim and Fallout, they keep that money rolling in with the creation kit. But I think they need a multiplayer game that they can keep people playing for a long, long time, that they can, continue to monetize for a long, long time. I don't think that's something they need for their business, but I think that's something that they would like and would keep money coming in at a steady clip. So I feel like if they had something like that, they'd announce it somewhat soon. I feel like they could be working with an outside studio on it or something like that. Maybe they brought back Brink or something crazy like that. I just feel like Bethesda needs a multiplayer shooter, which is why I think that they could announce one. I'd like for them to announce one, because Bethesda, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to publishers, they are the king of shooters. So I'd love to see what they would do for a multiplayer focused one, because they can nail down these single player ones. I love Wolfenstein 2 from last year, love Doom 2016, as I already said. I've been playing their shooters for a while, so I'm just very excited if they have a multiplayer game. Don't know how likely it is, but man, there's a gut feeling I have, and I just hope that gut feeling is going to be actualized. And so to wrap it up, just a few miscellaneous things from other third-party games that I want to see. Mainly it's just the only other things I'm thinking of outside of these main 4 third-party publishers. THQ Nordic. Now I know people like to laugh at THQ Nordic. They're really going hard on the whole THQ name and brand. They're buying up all their old IPs. They're re-releasing all these older games. They're just doing a whole bunch of stuff that the old THQ did, and people are worried that THQ Nordic is going to run themselves under by doing the same mistakes that THQ did. But remember, the main thing that sent THQ under was the U-Draw tablet. And it was the getting into the peripheral game is what threw THQ under. That's what a lot of people forget. So when THQ Nordic is re-releasing all these games that have had critical success, or not critical, but have had commercial success, and in some cases critical as well, this is actually a smart move. So I like what they're doing, and they actually have a lot of new games coming out as well. It's not just remasters and re-releases. They announced Biomutant a long time ago. I want to see more from Biomutant. I was really impressed when they first showed off Biomutant and how they had real gameplay, like pretty much months after the original release. They had, big chunks of the game playable and showed at different press conferences. I want more Biomutant gameplay, but I hope that the last couple months has added a lot of polish to the game. The game looked great, but it did look like it definitely looked double A, not quite triple A yet. I think they definitely have potential in that game, and even if it looks the way it looked back then, that game still looks fun as hell. But I think it would serve them well to add a little bit more polish if they do show that off more. So I want to see more Biomutant gameplay. Metro Exodus is another game from THQ Nordic, and that is something that already looks impressive. The polish on that looks so great. I think now they did show some gameplay, quote unquote gameplay, at the Microsoft press conference, I think last year or the year before, and that gameplay looked impressive to the point where it didn't seem like it was actually gameplay. So I'm a little hesitant on that. I want to see the UI in that game. I want to see what actual real life, what I'm going to pick up when I buy the game, gameplay looks like. Don't think we've seen that yet, or at least doesn't feel like we have. So I want to see that from Metro Exodus, and they've also teased that this is going to be a real big open world game. So I'd like a little bit of an idea of how that's going to work. Because when I think Metro, I think slow, I think plotting, I think linear. And you can't be slow and plotting in an open world game, or else it's going to be really hard and boring to traverse that open world. So I'm wondering how they're going to tackle that. I know they have that train, so that could come to effect there. And I just want to see more from Metro Exodus. I really enjoy the first two games, some of the most atmospheric first-person shooters I've played, really solid titles, and I'm just excited to see more from that team. And finally, from THQ Nordic, Darksiders 3. Darksiders 3, we've been waiting on this for quite a while now. I think it's been about 2 years since that original announcement, maybe. In either case, it's been a long time. And I think it's time to show some more polished gameplay. They did show gameplay of Darksiders 3, similar to Biomutant, pretty soon after the announcement, but it was very clearly in development still, and it needed to go through a couple more quality passes. I think Darksiders 3 is something that you could definitely show off, maybe not at one of the press conferences, but if it's on the show floor, I think it could turn heads. And plus, I hope they really, whatever they do with Darksiders 3, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. I hope there's no multiplayer or anything. I just don't want there to have any of that type of crap. I am looking forward to what I always want this series to eventually culminate into is Darksiders 4, all the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and its 4-player co-op. That would be the coolest thing in the world. But until then, I want this Darksiders 3 to just be, very similar to 1 and 2, where it's a dungeon crawler, the Zelda-esque. I hope they do lean into the more RPG elements that were in 2. I really dug those elements, but I'd like for them to keep the puzzle design and everything that was in 1 as well, and the boss design. Yeah, it seems like Fury is going to be way more acrobatic anyway than War, so I think combat is going to play a lot more than Darksiders 2 is going to play a lot more like Darksiders 2. And I'm just excited for Darksiders 3. I just want to see more of it. I want to see polish added, and I want to see what new gameplay enhancements and changes they've added for this threequel. And that's pretty much it. Those are my hopes and dreams for E3 when it comes to the third-party publishers and developers. Now, of course, I'm sure there are publishers and developers I forgot about. For example, Capcom, I hope that Resident Evil 2 remake rumor is real. There's a rumor going around that Resident Evil 2 remake is going to be like Resident Evil 4, where it's going to be over the shoulder, and it's going to have a much more action slant. If that is the case, I'm all for it, because I recently played Resident Evil 4 for the first time, and that shit was dope as hell. So I'm very excited for E3 this year. I'm very excited to see what is going to happen. And in the following video, after this one, I will talk about the big three, mainly PlayStation, because I'm a PlayStation guy. But I'm interested to see the moves of all the console manufacturers, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. And I'll be talking about that in a future video, probably tomorrow. So without any further ado, thank you guys for watching my E3 hopes and dreams for 2018. And I shall see you in the next one. Keep it real, keep it trill.